Welcome back to Moonkin Stitchery. My name is Crystal and today's video is part 2 of the modern lantern for my mini series called Lanterns. I wanted to create some cute mini wall hangs in lanterns for decorations, and I came across a lovely free vector file in which I wanted to turn into a wall hang. Lanterns is available as a free pattern on my website, and the link for it will be down below in the description, but today I will be focusing on just the modern lantern. First off, you will need to print the template out. Please triple check your printer settings before printing. Do make sure it is set to 100%. Do not scale to print. Most printers will try and scale the image down before printing, but once you have printed it out, make sure that 1-inch square measures exactly 1 inch with your quilt ruler. And next you'll just want to carefully cut out all the pieces on the exterior bold line. For the inside of the lantern and the handle, you may want to use smaller scissors just to help you out. Now I have already cut out the fabric requirements for the modern lantern and then applied the heat and bond iron adhesive to the back of the fabric. All of this will be written down in the free pattern below. You'll then trace the template onto the back of the fabric where the heat and bond is, so on the heat and bond side, and then you're just going to cut everything out again. For the lantern, I placed it in the center of the fabric and I traced the lantern shape out. I also did this for the yellow light source too. The orange light source does not have a template. It will stay in the rectangular shape, and the background fabric will not have the heat and bond added. Once everything is traced, you are going to take your scissors and cut everything out again. But do take your time this time and try and be as precise as possible. Since this is a raw edge applique, your scissor work will for sure be visible in the final outcome of the mini quilt. Once everything is cut out, I went ahead and moved to my ironing board and I placed the fabric right side up. And you'll want to fold the background fabric hot dog style and just give it a good finger press. Do not use an iron to press it because you don't want any harsh folded lines. And then you're going to take the heat and bond paper off the back of the English lantern and both yellow and orange light source. Then with the lantern piece, you're just going to place it down in the center as best as possible. Next, take the orange light source and slide it under the lantern. If you happen to have any orange bits sticking out of the exterior part of the lantern, just take some fabric scissors and trim the small pieces off. Once you have the orange light source set in place, it is now time to add the yellow light source on top of the orange but off to one side. Do your best to center everything as possible, but once you are satisfied where everything is at, just take the iron and give it a good press. Make sure you melt the heat and bond adhesive really good so everything will stick to the background. Once ironed down, this next step is optional if you prefer, but you can go ahead and stitch down the edges of your applique at the sewing machine, or you can hand stitch this if you prefer. But for demonstration, I went ahead and did so here with machine sewing, and you can use some fancy creative stitches on your machine, but I went ahead with a standard blanket stitch style on the outer edge and then a simple straight stitch about 1/8-ish from the edge from the inside. And last, I did do a color change, and I went with a simple straight stitch about 1/8 again from the edge for the yellow light source. Before I take my mini quilt to my Longarm machine to quilt it out, I wanted to use a fabric erasable marker, and I am using the highlighter version of the friction pin that will remove with heat. My goal for the background is to mimic a light source, like the light is on and it's shining through. And first I divided the light in half, and then at the top of the light in the lantern, I drew a line across. Now I have created 4 quadrants. Then I went ahead and used the 45-degree line on the ruler and lined the ruler at the bottom of the fabric and just slid it over until it hit the middle point at the top of the light. I then repeat the same steps all around in each quadrant. Lastly, between each 45-degree line, I just kind of eyeballed what seemed like half the size. That way I could divide it more into smaller portions. I then use the fabric marker to mark every other section, so I will know which areas to fill in when I'm at the Longarm machine. At the Longarm, I am going to base down the edges of the mini quilt. If you do not have a Longarm, that is fine. You can do it on your standard sewing machine, but since I have a Longarm, and I actually prefer to do it at the Longarm, I am going to do it there. But in no particular order, I will be using a straight edge ruler and first outline the outer area that I want to fill in. Everything that I have colored orange, I will be quilting in some straight lines going back and forth, filling in the area. And then I'm going to try and kind of create like a beam of light just to give this mini quilt a little bit more of a realistic look. And with that said, I'm just going to keep continuing and making my way around the entire background, and then I'll go back and fill in the area by the handle. For the lantern, I wanted to subdivide it into sections. The top section, the sides, the inner curve of the lantern, and lastly the base. To get started on the base, I first want to section it off. I'll be creating a straight line, and then using the straight edge ruler, I'll slowly make my way across. And then once I have divided that section, I am just going to quilt in the area while curving around the corners, but going back and forth within it too. I've decided I wanted to pack the lantern in with as much dense quilting as possible, just so I can provide this mini quilt some pretty good texture. Once I have finished, I will then start working my way back up the sides of the lantern and then subdividing the top portion next. Once again, I will use the straight edge ruler and repeat the same process like I did towards the bottom. After I have quilted this area to death, I will go ahead and travel down the side and start working on the right side. I'll just move up and down slowly, making sure I stay within that section and try not to cross over to what I just quilted already. Next, I'll move forward in the quilting and quilting out the curved inner workings, kind of moving back and forth all around in the center and coming back out to the left side. And once I'm finished with that area, I will then travel to the left and start quilting in the left side. Then I'll work my way back up to the top and subdivide again. I'll just keep repeating this process until the mini quilt has fully come to life. Now I chose to leave the light source unquilted so that way the batting in the areas between those sections will puff out. Lastly, all you will need to do is just add some binding and you're done. I hope you have enjoyed this mini quilt series. If you could, please take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified for my next amazing quilt project. That would be very appreciated. And stay tuned because the next video that will be out will be the traditional lantern, and that will be the end of our mini series. I do hope you like it, but thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.